You're planning a trip to Switzerland in June and you're wondering what to expect. Well, in this video, I'll tell you everything you need to know and more because this is Switzerland Insider. My name is Greg, I'm Swiss. Let's start with the weather because this is usually the first thing travelers ask about. June is one of the most comfortable months to visit Switzerland, but it can already feel surprisingly hot at times. In cities like Zurich, Lucerne or Bern, daytime temperatures often are between 22 and 28 degrees centigrade, but during warmer periods, temperatures above 30 degrees are absolutely possible now, especially later in the month. In the southern part of Switzerland, like Ticino or around Lake Geneva, it can already feel like proper summer. You'll see people swimming, spending evenings by the lakes, and staying outside late because the days are so long now. At the same time, June usually is still more comfortable than July or August. The nights are often fresher, heat waves are usually shorter, and mornings can feel really pleasant before the temperatures rise later in the day. But June also comes with a typical summer weather pattern, especially in the mountains. Mornings are often very clear. Then the thermal clouds start building up during the afternoon. Sometimes this just affects visibility. Other times it can turn into rain showers or thunderstorms later in the day. So if mountain views are important to you, go earlier in the day whenever possible. Now, let's talk about the mountains, because this is usually where June changes quite a lot compared to May. By mid-June, most mountain infrastructure is operating again. The cable cars reopen, the panoramic train runs normally again, and the mountain restaurants are open as well. And many higher areas become accessible after the long winter season. At the same time, early June can still feel transitional in some regions. Certain mountain areas simply need more time for the snow to melt completely. So places like Schinigenplatte sometimes only open during June. And some higher hiking trails in the Berner Oberland can still have snow patches at the beginning of the month as well. Now in places like Zermatt, the summer season also only really starts properly around the middle of the month. And even hikes like the famous Stoss Ridge hike are usually only realistic once June has actually really started. This also means that the beginning of June and the end of June can feel surprisingly different in the mountains. When the alpine flower season slowly begins and the cows start moving up to higher pastures again, and the mountain villages feel much more alive compared to spring. And this is exactly where having a clear plan helps. I've created travel guides that cover everything you actually need to know about each area. They include done-for-you itineraries, a comprehensive destination breakdowns, city guides where applicable, and of course places to eat and stay, all vetted by me. Now, you can plan your entire trip with them and be better prepared than most travelers. You'll find them at switzerlandinsider.com/guides or linked below as well. Now, let's talk about hiking. This is where June becomes one of the best times to visit Switzerland. Lower and mid-elevation trains are usually in very good condition by now. You can hike full days, combine mountain viewpoints with proper walks, and spend much more time outdoors. So, if you're planning hikes at higher elevation, always check current trail conditions locally before you go. Now, June is also when lake season really starts becoming part of the Switzerland experience. On warmer days, swimming is completely realistic in places like Lake Zurich, Lake Lucerne, or Lake Geneva. Now, earlier in the month, the water can still feel fresh, especially after cooler weather periods. But once the temperatures rise, you'll see people spending entire evenings by the lakes. Another big advantage of June is daylight. This means it's the longest days of the year and it stays bright late. Now, this gives you much more flexibility for sightseeing, hiking, or simply enjoying the evenings outside. Another highlight of June is water. Now, the snowmelt is still feeding many rivers and waterfalls, especially in the Alps. So places like Staubbach Falls or the Trümmelbach Falls remain very impressive during this time. And even smaller waterfalls are often much stronger than later in summer. Let us talk about cost and availability. June sits in an interesting middle ground. It's usually more expensive than May, especially in the second half of the month, but still often slightly cheaper than July and August. Accommodation availability also changes throughout the month. So earlier in June, you still have decent flexibility in many places. Later in the month, especially in popular mountain regions, availability at good hotels can disappear quite quickly and prices rise accordingly as well. So in the mountains, most infrastructure is now operating normally again also, which means full summer pricing starts returning as well. Now, if you're currently planning your trip to Switzerland, I've put together a free Switzerland planning starter pack. It includes 2 guides that help you get started, from the basics to choosing the right train pass for your trip. You can download it at switzerlandinsider.com/guide or linked below. A few practical tips for June. Start mountain days early, especially if visibility matters to you. Then book accommodation earlier if you're traveling in the second half of the month. Also, pack layers because temperatures still change quickly with elevation. And don't underestimate the sun in the mountains. The UV exposure becomes very strong in June, even on cooler days. And here's how I, as a local, would plan a trip to Switzerland in June. I'd combine cities, lakes, and mountain regions much more evenly now because the entire country becomes easier to access again. I'd spend more time around lakes, include proper mountain stays, and take advantage of the very long evenings. At the same time, I still wouldn't try to overpack the itinerary. June gives you enough daylight and good conditions to travel at a much more enjoyable pace. That's June in Switzerland. Thank you very much for watching. See you soon around in Switzerland. Bis bald und tschüss.